Hello, today I'm going to interview Sofia Malmsten from Hektar. So what is Hektar? It is a platform that uses AI to design several hypotheses of design in a given plot. So when you start a project at early stage, you want to have quickly some input of what you can build on this plot, how many surface you are going to be able to build, and so on. And Hektar answer you very quickly to that, and in a graphical, visual way that personally, as an architect, I love a lot. My name is Sebastian. I am an architect, and I am passionate about the revolution of AI in IoT. So if, like me, you are very enthusiastic about AI, you want to use it practically on your project to design faster, to design better projects, you are on the good place. So I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. And also, if you want to know which tool to use to start with AI in IoT, I made the list for you so you could download it. I left the link in the description below. So let's go on and let's jump to the interview. Hello, Sofia. I'm glad to have you here for this first session of AI in IoT interviews.
Yes, very nice to be here. I'm super excited.
Okay, me too. So I'm just going to present myself. So me, I'm Sebastian Lucas. I am an architect, but I just moved away from architecture for a few years doing web development, and now I'm coming back with AI because yeah, I'm quite passionate about the usage we can do from AI. And on this YouTube channel, I am doing some YouTube video about AI in IoT. And I am starting now this new series of interview of product founder like you, who develop some product for the IoT industry using AI. So can you present yourself, Sofia?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Sofia Malmsten, and I'm also an architect. So I've been studying architecture for 5 years, and I normally say that I'm almost an engineer. I've been studying a lot of engineering, both mechanical engineering and civil engineering. And beside architecture, I've always had a quite big interest in programming. So during my spare time, I was like studying programming and started to do some simple scripting. Started with Grasshopper, and then it became more and more like C#. And now my interest is in this AI topic in the AEC industry.
Okay.
But yeah, back in the days, like I think it was 3 years ago now, me and the other co-founder of the company decided to actually build a product based on our interest and the needs that we saw in the industry. So we started Parametrics Solutions in 2020, and now we're 9 people, and we're building this product Hektar for early stage developments.
Okay, great. And can you tell the idea of Hektar? It came from an initial. Where does it come from? From something you feel was a problem when you were working as an engineer or architect, or someone that many people that told you we need to fix this problem? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually a mix. First of all, I would say it comes from my own frustration, like sketching and spending so much time on doing these kind of iterations. And we saw that, like, now it was a couple of years ago, but it was kind of a big gap between sketching and the analytic part. So you do something, you send it for analysis, you get the result back, and you modify it again. So we thought that the gap between different disciplines could be much shorter. And instead of doing manual iterations and manual proposals, we thought, okay, could you bring in algorithms to kind of speed up the iteration work?
Okay.
So that was one thing. And beside that, me and also Eric, who is the other co-founder of Parametrics, we did an internship in the UK, where we worked for an engineering firm, and we were working on more like quite big iconic projects with a lot of different themes and structures and really advanced tools. So when we got back to Sweden, we also saw quite a big gap between how we work in more complex and iconic projects and more standardized projects back in Sweden. So it both came from our own frustration and the willing to speed up and help people in the industry and the gap between different countries.
Okay, great. So maybe we can start. You can show us how the product works, so that everybody have in mind what it can do. And after we can discuss. I will surely have many questions to ask you about that. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, of course. Let's see here.
You find the icon?
Yes, I'm sharing my full screen. I hope that's fine.
Okay, I see it.
Yes, great. So yeah, so basically what this is, it's a cloud-based platform for interacting with these technologies and the algorithms we were talking about. So I can give you a demo of how to like set up a new project and how to evaluate different proposals and how to interact with these kind of iterations we were talking about. So first of all, like imagine you want to create a new project. You're going to investigate a site and you are looking for information about how many units you can fit in and how many square meters and so on. So everything is based on Mapbox, which means that it's originally based on OpenStreetMap, which means we have a quite broad scale. So we cover the whole world and all locations, but maybe the resolution is not of data, it's not the most accurate, but this is the base level. And you have the possibility to then add additional info on top of this. But we can start looking into, you can both search for different locations, or you can just navigate to various parts that you're interested in. So we can try out a spot here in Gothenburg. Let's say, see, maybe here. I know we have some space in the center of Gothenburg. So when you search for your location and your site, you have the possibility to either just draw on top of this if you don't have information. If you have information, you can also like import DXF files, shape files connected to WMS services and so on. But we will start by just typing in name. And in this case, I'll just very simply switch to satellite mode and I'll draw the region for where we want to try out the algorithms on. So just something like this. So then we have the site boundary, and the principles are quite similar to other tools so far at this stage. But what actually like differs and what we're focusing on is, you see here to the left, you can decide what kind of, we call it study, but what kind of analysis you would like to run. So I'm going to go for multifamily housing, which is our set of generic typologies and generic volumes that we populate the site with. But you also, I'll come to that later on, but you also have the possibility to add your own design library and your own definition of standardization and design. But I'll go with this one for now. So I go save and continue. And now we have this kind of geometrical and geographical information. We can start typing in what kind of values we would like to explore. So first of all, I have my possibilities to add typologies. And in this case, we mean more like urban structure rather than the building type itself. But you can specify, I want to work with lamellas. You can specify the range and dimensions and how many stories they should be. And I will also try out with some quarter structures. And for the quarters, I can specify also like the width of the building and the amount of stories, and also like how open the quarter should be. If it should form a courtyard of like 4 lamellas with an open structure, or if it should be completely closed quarter with a private inner yard. And yeah, some other like typical floor height, first floor height, some very simple generic inputs for the first iteration.
Mhm.
And also I can specify ratios for my target in terms of like FAR ratio and how high density I wish the site to have. So when I've done that, I'll press generate. And what is actually happening here is that the site and geometrical constraints, together with this input of user specification, that is sent to our servers in its generated backend. And yeah, the algorithms in Hektar then tries to populate this site and configure different options based on the inputs from the user. So as you can see, the algorithms are working and we get a lot of different options for how to place the volumes and how to split up the site basically.
Mm-hmm. But still with the same typology.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So as you see here, now we have a combination of lamella structure and quarter structure. Mm-hmm. So here we have quite closed quarter structures for in this proposal here. But here we have a more open structure. It's still quarters, but it's a kind of a mix between lamellas and quarter structures shaping an area like this.
And the goal for the designer, for the architect, is to understand the possibilities of the plot, or?
Yeah, exactly. So we have two target groups. First of all, we have property developers on one hand side, and then we have the architects on the other side. Which means that for the property developer, it's more about how many units can I fit in and how can I do simple feasibility studies in really early stages to investigate the possibility of the land. Mm-hmm. And for the architect, it's more about idea generation and come up with many different proposals quicker than using traditional tools.
Okay.
And yeah, once you have these scenarios, you can do a lot of different things with them. You can, first of all, in this dashboard, you have the possibility to display what kind of data you are interested in. Of course, gross floor area is quite relevant, and also net internal area. But you can display, for example, the number of apartments, or if you want to see some other KPIs related to this scenario.
So all the KPI are already calculated, but we choose what to display in the dashboard.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So the thing is, like the inputs that are sent to the server are producing a 3D model based on the inputs and the site constraints, geometrical constraints. Mm-hmm. And all of the KPIs are evaluated and calculated backend, and then sent back to the user. So the only thing that you as a user need to consider is what kind of data do you want to display at the same time.
And another question that I have is that it reminds me, for example, the way we on Midjourney, for example, you have several options of an image, and then you can say, okay, this is the option I want more. Can you make other option of the same option? Yes. Have you got this possibility of iterating on what the architect, for example, prefer?
Yes, we're actually working. We haven't released it yet, but we're actually working on exactly on that feature. So okay. The whole idea is that you first of all generate a quite broad design scope. So you do one solution here and one solution there to kind of do that as a first draft for the user. Mm-hmm. And then it's about like picking the information in each scenario that the user likes. So I mean, if you want to create similar solutions to this one, what kind of information are you interested in to both manipulate, but also to keep for the next iteration?
Okay.
So that's something that we're working on right now, and kind of building up a knowledge of what does the user like, how can we support the user in the decision-making process in this huge design scope that very soon opens up for the user.
But the system deduced by itself, what is the quality that the user like in scenario 5, for example? or does the user have a possibility to say, okay, what I care is, for example, the surface, the number of apartments? What do you plan to do?
Yeah, we're planning to do both. So first of all, we are like breaking up all of the different scales, so you can see, okay, pick the right information and extract that from the scenario. So in this case, maybe it is the quarter structure that I like, but I would like to play around with different heights. Then you need to pick that information to say to kind of lock that information and understand that, okay, it's actually the quarter structures that I want to keep, and I want to experiment with the heights. So that's one thing. And we will actually do both. So you will both have the possibility to lock certain things in the scenario, and you will have the possibility to just generate similar.
Okay, great.
So we will have both. And in order to like investigate the different proposals, because what I think is quite interesting is like when you're doing design in a traditional way, you kind of work towards finding one perfect solution for yourself or for your client. But working with algorithms, you very soon realize that you have a very, very wide scope of possibilities. So the main challenge and the main like possibility, but also the challenge is to like, how do we navigate in this wide design scope, and how do we actually provide and assist the user in finding the most valuable and valid solution in the end. So we're working on like different aspects to guide and support the user in doing this. First of all, I think some of you have probably seen like the parallel axis diagram before.
No, I didn't use this type of graph.
Sorry?
I have never seen this type of graph. What does it mean?
Okay. Then I'll explain it. So basically, each and every scenario here comes with pros and cons. So let's say in this you have a lot of gross floor area, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different buildings. Here you might have another value for the area, but you have more buildings, more facade. So you will have different qualities and different aspects in each and every scenario that you generate. And here you have all of the, not all of them, but a certain set of the different output parameters. So you have net internal area, you have gross internal and gross floor. You have certain ranges for unit distribution, and also number of apartments and staircases. So if I hover on the first one, I can then read in this graph to say, okay, this proposal here, scenario 5, has a really high value on net internal area, gross internal, and gross floor. And we also have a lot of different apartments. But if I hover on this one, I have another profile for this kind of scenario.
Yes, of course.
And this is another profile. And then we can like switch it around a little bit. So I can say, show me the proposals that have this range of gross floor area. So then I have a range. I have 2 very different proposals and scenarios with very different qualities. But they are still matching on my other criteria, such as like gross floor area or other aspects, such as number of apartments and so on.
So it's really a tool to select. Here you have only 4 or 5 scenarios, but potentially you could have much more, and this tool could allow to filter down the ones that you think are better, no?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, let's say you're not happy with any of them. You can then, of course, like go back to the generation panel over here and say, okay, here we have a lot of ground parking, for example, but let's say you want to do underground parking instead, and you want to work with lamellas, and you would like to have a totally different specification. You can generate more proposals and kind of see these as a live dashboard where you can generate, filter, discard, generate again, and have this as a dashboard of producing ideas.
And I have another question on the workflow, because when you are an architect, I will more talk about the architect point of view, because the developer point of view, I know it less, but as an architect, currently you are doing some sketches. You are just drawing these sketches, maybe with a 3D modeling software, just to be able to output some documents and so on. And here, but you need to decide one generally. Maybe by hand you do several sketches, and after you take one hypothesis, you put it on the software, and after you make some presentation for your client. And here, how do you see it change typical workflow? Is it complementary to the typical workflow? Is it going to replace it? How do you see?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of a mix. I completely understand that. I mean, it's a new way of working. Like, you get a lot of different proposals, and it's really easy to be like overwhelmed of the whole design scope. But then the idea is that you do this in steps. So let's say you get your first drafts like this, then of course you can go into a proposal and have a look at the detailed model. And what we're working on right now is like, maybe you're happy with this part of the site, but you want to regenerate over here. Then we are working right now on like, okay, you can select and lock certain things in the model to kind of use algorithms, but in a different, like on certain different steps along the process, to kind of both keep the traditional workflow and way of working, and at the same time integrate algorithms to speed up that process, and like at the same time open up for a lot of different possibilities.
So a bit similar to in painting for image. So you fix one part of the modelization is you just lock it and you say, okay, this I will manually handle it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
After the rest, you could open the possibilities to just find explore many possibilities for the rest of the site.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole idea is that you should like start very broad, depending on like the starting point in the project, but you can start really broad and investigate different options. And then like in the next iteration, you can lock certain parts and regenerate here. And then as a final step, you can go in and like modify the details. Let's say you're not happy with this corners like being cut off like this, then of course you should be able to do that part of the modification as well. So we are thinking about having 3 different levels of how you should be able to interact and modify the proposals generated by Hektar.
But after it, as I didn't see at first the level of detail of your 3D, it's very, it's really great, the level of detail. We already have the split between the apartments, so on. So I asked myself, at which moment, when you are happy with this 3D, shall we continue in the software, or shall we export it in Revit or other software, or what? What people are doing currently among your beta testers, for example?
Yeah, okay, so we have 2 different options here. First of all, you can download the whole scenario. So you can just produce a lot of different models, and you can just download it and open it in any CAD software, and then you have this kind of resolution for it. So that's one way of doing it. And then you can, of course, continue working in Revit or in ArchiCAD or any other CAD or BIM programs. But then on the other hand, we have, like if we connect back to the level of detail and resolution, this is our standardized, we call it block typologies. But as mentioned before, we also do this level of customization and specific design logic for specific clients, which means that when we store this in the database and the user then going back to Revit, if you know that this is apartment 45x38 in your as represented as a Revit family in your like template file in Revit, you can then like go from a very low load level and like replace these kind of units with a high resolution back in Revit.
So you could import just one apartment, continue the modelization, the design inside of Revit,
Almost. What you get is like the outer boundary of the apartment. So we don't do floor plans. We do the bounding box or the bounding geometry for representing the unit. But we don't do like where is the bathroom and where is the living room. So it's quite low level when it comes to the interior units. But we do the configuration of unit distribution and how to populate them. But then, of course, in Revit, you can replace this unit with your standardized unit library, if that makes sense.
Okay. And after, it has a sense to import back the refined geometry inside your tool, or it's not useful? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we have a possibility to. We have some Dynamo scripts in the background, and we're also planning on integrating and work a lot more with like interoperability to combine. We call it a Revit adapter and also an ArchiCAD adapter, where the user have the possibility to push and pull the data back and forth between different platforms.
Okay. So it could be also used as a tool to put the project in context, as you have all the 3D of the city, for example.
Yeah.
We can up to a given, maybe at the beginning of the project, but maybe for quite a long time, it will be good enough to visualize the project inside the context, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you see here we have also like the context buildings. Right now, they are automatically generated from OpenStreetMap, but we'll have the possibility to, if you have additional level of information, you have the possibility to replace this building geometries, which means that for simulation purposes and other kind of evaluation aspects, you can both export and import in other programs, but we're looking into now API solutions for other simulation tools, so you can validate the proposal from a data perspective and noise perspective.
Okay, great. And one thing also that you talk at the beginning is the possibility to define some typology yourself, but I'm quite not sure how you can do that because the typology seems to me something a bit abstract, no? But is there a 3D tool to design a typology, or how you should do that?
Yeah, I can see if I have some other examples. Let's see here. 1 second. Maybe let's see. Try this. Yes. So to answer your question, we can dig deeper into this project here, which is more or less the same, but you see the resolution is very different from the previous one. So in this case, the input was not the whole volume as a whole, but the input here was these kind of modules. So if I click on one, you will see that this is a typical apartment. So we had 25 different units, and we built up this design logic from an inside-out perspective, more or less, which meant that we were configuring the building based on standardized units. So when I say typology, I understand it's a bit abstract, but it could be everything from like a very specified standardized unit, or it could be like a block if you go up one scale and talk about like staircase decisions and so on. But it could also be volumetric representations. Like, are we talking about lamellas? Are we talking about a quarter structure? Or are we talking about point house typologies?
So the AI behind your tool is understanding, because if you take a standard unit, which is a part of a big building, and lamellas, which is a global shape of many buildings, it's a different scale of shape, I think, and the system is smart enough to deduce that what you want to do. Or?
Exactly. So the way we're planning now to integrate the AI and like improve that is actually not in generating the geometry itself, but rather the connection between the different scales within architecture. So as you say, like we have the typologies like quarter, lamella, point house, And in each quarter, you can have a lot of different options when it comes to block configurations. And in every block, you can have a lot of different configurations for units. And the same for point houses. So you have this kind of huge design tree. And what we are planning to do now is to assist the user in how to make decisions within this tree to produce a proposal at the very end that are so close to your initial ideas and intuitions as possible.
Okay, great. Maybe I will continue with some questions that probably people ask, which is one is a competitor. Me, I identify already Autodesk Forma as a competitor, but do you agree with that, or are you different?
Yeah, I do. I of course, like I would normally say that the principles behind the software within generative design are quite similar, and the core principle is more or less the same. So you type in your sites and your boundary constraints, you generate options, you evaluate them, and you as a user interact with the different proposals generated by the algorithm. Forma is a little bit more of an analytic tool, I would say, and we are currently looking into possibilities for how can we bring the generated proposals within Hektar to be maybe analyzed within Forma. So I see, of course, I see it a little bit as a competitor, but I also see it as a perfect combination of these two tools.
Okay.
Because we're not focusing that much on the analytic part, which means it's a great combination to see, can we actually combine that with Forma somehow? So that's one way of thinking about it. And then on the other hand, we have other competitors when it comes to more detailed design or schematic design, such as, like, let's say Finch for doing floor plans, Plan Finder, Archicad in Australia. So there are like generative design tools, like there are some overlaps at different stages, but I would say that we are mainly focusing on this block configuration and unit distribution. So it's kind of like a step in between Forma and Finch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And what about the price to use your software?
Yeah, so we have three different. I can actually go here and show you. If we go to, let's see here. So we have three different tiers for Hektar. We have one freemium tier, which means it's for free and you can use it to get started. And in Hektar Free, you have access to the latest algorithm and all of the latest developments. You can generate 3 different projects, and you can also generate 10 scenarios per project. But then you have kind of a cap in the amount of like generations and projects that you can do.
But this is very great to have a free plan, because me personally, I am exploring the generating tool, and I'm blocked everywhere. I need to ask for special access for demo purpose. But yeah, it's great that at least there is a possibility to test and to see what it is, because it's new product, so we need to be able to understand the value. So I think
exactly. And I think like both from the provider, from the software provider, which in this case is us, and also for the users, I think we really believe in like transparency, and we want as many users as possible to use Hektar, and we want the entrance level to be quite low. So we are actually doing this freemium version. So you don't have to fill in card details or anything. You can just register an account, try it out, and if you like it, you are more than welcome to join the pro tier, and otherwise you feel free to just continue using Hektar Free.
So the pro tier is not limited, and you have other option also that you don't have in a free version.
Yeah, exactly. So as mentioned, like in the free tier, you can do 3 projects, or you can have 3 active projects at the same time. And in combination with that, you are limited in how much data you can see, and there are some caps in the free version. But in the pro version, you can generate unlimited amount of scenarios. You can generate, or you can have unlimited amount of projects available at the same time, and you unlock all of the different data, KPIs and metrics and everything like that. And then, as mentioned, in the enterprise tier, we do these customization and connect to very specific BIM workflows for specific clients, which means you can connect it to Revit and make sure that you generate design options based on your design library, which is more or less good for modular construction companies, like developers with a high level of standardization, typical buildings, etc.
Yeah, it could be on the one end, maybe architects who want to have their special style and to use the tool very specifically, or companies that are well advanced in standardization and want to have a typology and that they reuse.
Exactly. And I mean, like for we do single family housing as well, and then it's quite common that you have a set of predefined houses, for example. So maybe you have 10 standardized house types in BIM or like Revit or ArchiCAD. Then you also have a lot of data related to all of these different like modules or houses, which means that Hektar uses the placeholder for configuring the layouts, but then you unlock a lot of data from your own business intelligence data by using your own components in this configuration.
Okay, and maybe I have a question, because you tell when you released this software, I saw on LinkedIn that you said that you work with many beta testers. So how are you working practically with them? You have a kind of I don't know, you do some interview, or you have Discord community maybe to exchange? How do you do it practically?
Yeah, so we work with it from two different angles, so to say. So first of all, since we have Hektar free and we don't charge for Hektar free, we let the user use Hektar as is, and we receive a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, and we kind of develop the algorithms and the interface and the whole program together with our active free users. And then on the other, but we don't spend too much time on like interviews and collecting feedback there. So it's more from like a statistic point of view.
Okay.
And then on the enterprise tier, we work really close with several developers and also some architect firms. And then we have bi-weekly meetings where we go through the latest updates, and we do some user stories, and we go through the roadmap together. And we do this customization part as well. So to collect feedback and further develop Hektar, we work both from the free perspective with a lot of users, and then on the quality side with a selected few property developers engaged in this tier.
So when you talk about customization, there are also some good ideas that you end up with talking with this enterprise client that everybody will benefit from, because you put it in the product itself?
Yeah, then I mean, we're always developing the pro and the free tier. So the customization part is not for like developing the product itself. It's only about bringing in specific BIM components and like very specific design logic. So it's not for developing the whole product. Of course, some feedback would indirectly influence the roadmap, of course, but the enterprise is more for the design libraries and how to integrate them.
Okay, great. Maybe you can switch screen to go back to view 3D view. So we like this.
Yeah.
Maybe to I have two questions. Maybe one that is I'm very interested in it because it's more the technical part of AI that you use, and after we will maybe finish to a global view on what you think, how you think that globally the design process will evolve in the next year. So let's do that. So first, I am interested in AI. I know ChatGPT. I know Midjourney. So I roughly know these two types of AI. is it different when you generate some 3D model like this from it's not a prompt, it's from a selection of an area, for example? Do you use the same methodology or is it different?
It's different. So, I mean, like, let's say when you use Midjourney or when you generate the images, it's generative AI for producing this pixel art and pixel images. But in this case, we are actually using procedural algorithms for creating the geometry. So it's not AI to produce the geometry, but what we will do with AI is rather assist the decision-making process for how to guide the procedural algorithms in generating and making decisions along the way.
Okay.
So AI is not really producing the geometry. So it's procedural algorithms that do this, the mesh factory and the producing of the proposals. But we will combine that with AI to make sure that the procedural algorithm generates as good proposals as possible for the user.
So even without AI, it's possible to do the same, but without this diversity of scenario, I suppose, no?
Yeah, I think like the main issue with only using procedural algorithms in this setup is the like difficulty to find the best solution in the end for the user. I mean, you could use genetic algorithms and other optimization techniques, but there is a lot of different aspects in different scales and different states for going from an empty site to a proposal that you're happy with, that you need to do this in different stages and also with the user interaction in place, of course.
Okay. And inside your team, you all know what is a procedure algorithm, or there are some technical people that are more advanced on the topic?
We have a lot of people that are like doing the advanced algorithms. So, I mean, first of all, it's the other co-founder has a background in like machine learning and theoretical physics. So he is doing a lot of the different algorithms. And then we have Simon and Martin, and they are architects, but they are also very good at programming. So they come from that perspective.
Okay, great.
And then Alexander is also working a lot on like the decisions and how they are made and how we can later on like improve the AI systems. And so there are a lot of guys working on the technical aspects.
So it's great to see
in the beginning, but now I haven't done it in a while actually.
We are two architects who know how to code and who like programming, but we are not alone. There are more and more architects that interest in code. This is great news.
So
I feel less lonely.
And then we have programmers that likes architecture, and then we kind of find each other in the middle.
Yeah, I think from the point of view of an architect, programming is really interesting because it opens lots of possibility of form generation and so on. It's less. Often people things to programming as just doing the dumb task, but I think it could be used also to be more creative. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like personally, I think it's really interesting to see like where the industry is going now, both in terms of like the general AI tools available on the market, but like how you think about architecture in relation to programming and to AI, because you think about it in a different way when you're trying to like program it and apply AI techniques to produce things for you.
So it's a good opportunity for me just to switch to my last question because I think globally there is a different. We are on the. We are going to move to another way to design, I think. But one aspect that I noticed, for example, is that most people use software that are very old, like Revit, that are desktop software that are not interactive like your software. On the one hand, on the other hand, there are many multiple design software like yours, like So you mentioned there is Hektar, but after you can use Finch, for example, which is good at plan generation. I know also Spatio, which is allowed to do some simulation very early in the design process. And after there are some design tool. So I don't Infornia. There is many. There are many. But to me, it's a bit strange that in the ARC industry we still have some software that are so old than Revit, which is not collaborative, so not online, and which don't have all the possibilities of the current day. But there is so much diversity now with this new software. So also, I imagine it's difficult for an architect to just say, okay, I'm going to switch to Hektar. After I will pay a subscription with Finch, and after I will pay a subscription there. The software are not so interconnected. So maybe we are missing also this interconnection, so that the work could be done in all the places. So my question is, how do you see the evolution of design software? Do you think that we are most of architects will continue to use Revit, Archicad in the desktop, or will they, maybe there will be a winner, a big app that will be the more popular, and all the satellite app like yours could be a satellite app to help in early stage, and after there could be another one to help for engineer and so on, will plug into this winner. Maybe how do you see the next year?
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I've been thinking a lot about it. I don't have a super clear answer, but I think like first you have like the big programs like Revit, you have Archicad and the other BIM programs, and they are like very broad in what you can do. But what we see now is like you have more like a diversity in tools focusing on different verticals. So we see like programs that evolved towards residential development, and then you like work in this direction instead of doing this kind of broad perspective. Or if you want to do industrial development or industrial schemes, you could use an industrial tool for doing that. So I think there will be a big diversity in different apps, but that I still see that Revit and the other like giant tools will be present on the market, and that the satellite apps will do this kind of vertical job, and then Revit and the other bigger tools could do like the final steps and the broader foundation. But of course, it's interesting because people don't want to pay for too many different softwares and too many different apps at the same time. I mean, you won't buy. It makes sense to buy a Revit or a license for Revit or for the broad perspective. But if you work on these verticals, you have to buy like a lot more different licenses, I think. So I'm not really sure how that will evolve and be developed in the future. But I think like file formats is super important, and the interoperability is extremely important between different tools. But the pricing models, I'm not really sure how they will work together.
But about interoperability, do you have, because you can export your geometry in .obj, which is a kind of 3D model, but there is no logic about architecture or building. So we are losing, I suppose, many information, no? And it's a kind of flat format. So I'm just asking myself if there is either a file format that could assure this interoperability, or some API connection between the two. I don't know.
We want to push it more towards the API connections to kind of have as minimal information as possible stored in the databases that you can push and pull both through live connections through software, but also to fetch geometries from the database. So we are working on different adapters. We're also looking a little bit into Speckle systems to see how Speckle can support us in this interoperability, so we don't have to develop everything in terms of interoperability from scratch. But of course, we need to also assist more manual workflows. So of course, we also need to work with file formats. So we have OBJ, we have download as 3DM model, and we're looking into IFC exports and imports, of course. And yeah, in the end, we think that the best solution, or where we want to push it, is towards the API connections, where you have certain information in Revit from the beginning, and then you can use it as a placeholder for generating options.
Yeah, but the API should be standardized also if we want that to be able to import some geometry from from Finch, from I don't know if it is already standardized, or every tool develop its own format, its own definition of the geometry.
There's a lot of different file formats, and also what we've realized, like along the way, there's, I mean, when working in the urban field a little bit, you need to standardize the scales. So you need to know which building has which staircase, and which staircase does like the units, which units are connected to a certain staircase. So you need to store that information in a data tree structure or in a relationship structure in the database to make sure that how is this part of the model connected to another part. And we haven't found a really good way of doing that between different tools. So we're investigating it at the moment. And yeah, I mean, if you have any ideas, you're more than welcome.
Maybe one guess that I have is that for file format, I think IFC is the more common. But for API, I think Speckle developed an API which is, as it is open source, it is possible to see all the model. And I think their organization of spatial definition is, I suppose it's smart enough, so maybe it's a good start. I think, and it's another move that I see. So this I don't really realize how far it will go, but I don't know if you heard about IFCGS, and now it's in a company called That Open company, which develop a kind of ecosystem. And they want to do a BIM editor. They have already done a BIM viewer, and now they want to do a BIM editor that is available for everybody. And I will try, by the way, to do some stuff with it just to understand the limit. And I think open source is quite important, exactly for this type of interoperability. And
definitely, I think there's a lot of different tools available with closed file formats, and I really believe in the open source and the open transparency to kind of make a lot of progress in the industry overall.
Yeah, great. So you are on the same mood. This is a great. I think it's great that before we had a big player like Autodesk, and it was difficult to exist behind this big player. I think the landscape is going much more diversified.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a great news, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like then different products can be really good at certain tasks that they can focus on instead of having this super broad perspective. But then, of course, the file formats and the interoperability becomes even more important for the industry as a whole.
Yes, okay. Great. So thank you very much, Sofia. It was really interesting, and I'm really impressed by what Hektar can do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to hear. And yeah, I mean, it's free and it's open to use. So feel free to go in and play around with it.
Yeah, I will put the link in the description, and I will talk, of course, about Hektar. And have you got a tool, just to finish, that you advise me to interview? AI tool for AFC that you think is really game-changing?
Oh, I think there's a lot, which would be, but I mean, within the same area, I think Spatio is really interesting to look into if you haven't done that already. And also, I think it's very interesting to see how, like, if you go deeper into the scale, such as like Plan Finder, how these kind of tools that are producing a lot of data could be integrated in other like other software and other tools. Other stages, so that one would be interesting as well. Yeah, that was the two top of mind.
Okay, okay, great. Great. Thank you very much, and see you in the next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to visit the channel.